All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So remember, this is your optical strip. Okay, so if you look at it here, so if you look at it here, yeah, take pictures. But as I said to you all will have access to this PowerPoint. Everybody will get access to this PowerPoint. Okay, so Sony was big as far as technology is concerned, and they're always up on like tape and film. Then you have Dolby, and then you have your analog stereo left and right. Right, so this is what we're looking at right here. Okay.
Wasn't Kodak pretty good, but later on?
Well, yeah, Kodak was really good with film, and they had merged a long time ago, and it was like them competing with Technicolor. But Kodak has been around for a very long time, very long time. All right. So in the early 20s, Bell Labs develops a sound on disc system that uses 33 and 1/3 RPM disc, released Don Juan, that had no dialogue. So you know that we were all talking about the jazz singer, but some people want to say that Don Juan was first, even though there wasn't any dialogue. There was music involved, right? So still, jazz singer is looked at as the first talkie, but just remember the movie Don Juan. Okay.
That's pretty hard.
So here we go. In 1927, Warner Brothers released the first talkie, The Jazz Singer. So we'll go back to this Don Juan, right? It was pretty significant because it develops a sound and disc system that uses 33 and 1/3 RPM disc. So does anybody know what that is? The 33 and 1/3? Anybody familiar?
Yes.
All right. So
I am not.
Hold on, Cedric. Hold on, Cedric. I'm stopping Cedric. And who else said yeah?
I do.
Who's that? Okay, so Shamari and Cedric are the oldest guys in the class with me, right? And the reason why I say that is because we listen to records, listen to wax.
Yes.
And that's where the 33 and 1/3 comes from. So, and so I have another class, everybody, right? And we're talking about sound, right? In a sense, we're talking about audio and sound. So I'm talking to these students, and I was just joking with Cedric and Shamari being the oldest. I'm just messing with them. Cedric is 20 and Shamari's 21. So what I'm saying,
20 and change.
20 and change. Okay. So what I'm saying is podcasts. A lot of you, do a lot of you listen to podcasts? Okay. So
I do.
I'm seeing everybody shake their heads. Okay. So where do y'all think podcasts come from?
Radio.
Radio, exactly. So back in the days, there was no TV, there was no movies, there was radio. And people would families would come together in the bedroom and listen to radio play. So people would be acting or people would be talking, but it would be all on the radio. So now people
my mother used to tell me about that.
Yep. So people are listening to podcasts now. It's like listening to radio again, right? So when we looking at this Don Juan 33 and 1/3, going back to like it's a record player. I go into Best Buy, I go into Walmart, I'm going to places now and they selling record players again and they selling wax again, right? So
They need to bring it back.
Everything repeats itself, y'all. Everything repeats itself. So if you're looking at moments in time when we talking about that'll never happen again, history always repeats itself. in some way, shape, or form. So if you all wanted to actually put your brand out there, I know I believe Brandon does it, and I make somebody else in this class might do it too. If y'all have podcast or something on the air, you might say, well, you know, it's a visual medium. Nobody's really going to listen. It's a visual medium. Media is a visual medium, but that radio play is coming back, right?
That's why
And
you got to build your catalog, no
yep,
matter what.
right.
It's
So
all about the catalog.
and here's the other interesting thing: when digital technology evolved and these new cameras started coming out, right? So when I started out in the film business, it was film cameras, okay, right? And they had to actually digitize the film. And when they did that, those files were big, right? But the audio files were still small, right? So that means that if you just use an audio file, let's just say you got a podcast and you want to, just like Brandon said, build your catalog of just podcasts. It's not going to take up a lot of room on your computer or on your hard drive. And you have that as that you can push or a following of people to get to know, they get to know who you are. Like Apple Podcasts and all these podcasts. There's a podcast that I'm um, on Apple. I'll put it in the link. And
Anchor or Buzz Sprout.
what's that?
Oh, never mind.
Okay. Well, tell me. Let me. What is that, Brandon?
They're podcast distribution platforms.
Okay, so let's just.
But I realized you were talking about an actual podcast that you're on.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
put
yeah,
the
yeah,
link in the chat. So I
yeah.
want to see that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
All right, so I'll pull it up. But what I'm trying to say is that history always repeats itself. If you all want to say, you know what, I don't want to film, but I want to put some media out there, do a podcast or do something where you're talking about what you feel is relevant or important, and put it out there. People are going to gravitate to it. People like to listen to people, you know, and what they have to say. And you all have a voice and have something to say. So I encourage you all to put it out there. Okay.
Yeah, the
So
first time
yeah,
I just want to say this real quick because it's important and it's an example. The first time that I really took like is putting together a series of podcasts seriously and like writing down everything from the intro and storyboarding like how I'm gonna bring on guests. From the moment I took it serious, like the first video, I put like all of my multimedia talent into it. It doubled the amount of views I've gotten since 2000. Like in like a 6 year period, I haven't gotten that many views that I got in 24 hours on that video, on the first one. So like, and that was just with me like, all right, if I feel like this is an episode for multi-serialized multi-content is what I call it. So it doesn't sound like a podcast. But I did that project and it just doubled instantly. And it's just from putting that many more elements into the work. And there are platforms for you to do it if you want to use podcasts. So that's it.
so why don't you do this for me, Brandon? Why don't you put those platforms, put them in the chat, put them in the chat, so I can look them up, and then everybody else can see them.
Okay.
There is a podcast called Final Fights. It's on Apple. It's a lot of other places, but watch that. Actually, that's um, Mark Hoffmeyer. If y'all had him as a teacher before, he's still a teacher at SAE. And everybody, mute your microphones, please. But I encourage you all, if you have a podcast or something you want to put out there, put it out there. Put it out there. Okay. So the same year in 1927 that Jazz Singer came out, um, Disney released Steamboat Willie. So Steamboat Willie was Mickey Mouse, right? And this is animated short film, right? And then in the 1940s, we got Fantasia. Everybody mute your microphone, please. All right. Has anybody seen Fantasia? Y'all could just show by a show of hands. So if
I
anybody,
have not.
okay, if
I
anybody's
have
not
not.
seen Fantasia, I suggest you look it up, find it, and watch it. It's a classic film. It's 1940, but it's a really good film. Really good film. It's animated, but if you think about the year it came out and when you see it, it's pretty amazing. So, who keeps unmuting themselves? Because there's feedback. Marlon, mute your microphone. All right. So
You got Lena too. Lena's is unmuted, and I think Marlon's was too. But that's it.
okay. So Fantasia.
I was talking, so it wasn't mine.
Okay. All right. So Fantasia, 1940s. So first time a multi-track recording are used to capture an orchestra and then overdubbed. So if you watch Fantasia, all the music is done basically by an orchestra, like a mainstream orchestra, like a whole lot of instruments involved. But when you listen to it, if you watch it, and you really won't get the full effect. And I actually saw it in the movie theater. Now, that doesn't mean I was born in 1940. I just was in a movie theater where they were showing it like when I was younger. That's all.
Man,
But
you're old, Mr. Robinson.
so it had mechanical sync, pan, pot, and surround sound. So for the 1940s, basically what I just explained to you, if y'all go into the theaters and you see THX or like Dolby Sound, so it's like a very enhanced sound experience. That's basically what they did in the 1940s. So they had to kind of use a lot of different techniques to do what they do today with ease. But back then in the 40s, it wasn't that easy. But you got really good sound for your film, it's like you went to the opera or you went to go see an orchestra play and it was just the sound was just as big or bigger than the picture, right? So this is the other thing for you all y'all are filmmakers. So for all you filmmakers, when I say pay attention to sound, when you make your movie, right, you're gonna have to, once you get picture lock and you send it to the sound department and they do sound design and you get a composer, you got to think about your film and what you want people to feel when they watch your film. Do you want them to really feel like emotional and overwhelmed by the sound, or do you want the sound not to be as prominent, right? And maybe take a backseat to your movie, and it's more about the character and the direction, and not really about the music or the sound. In my opinion, you should try to have an even balance of all of them, right? You should try to take the acting, the direction, the production design, the cinematography. You know how we mentioning all those things, and the sound, right? And the symphony or the symphonic sound that you can actually implement into your story and take your story to the next level. Okay. So
Mr. Robinson,
yes.
I had a question.
Yep.
Okay, so it's possible to get Foley during the production process, right?
I want you to think about this. So remember when we watched the Foley artists and how they operate?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to think about that process, what they did. And when you say get Foley, now correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you mean is like if we wanted footsteps of a person walking, why don't we just record the person's footsteps? You mean, right?
Right.
Right. That wouldn't be considered Foley. That will be considered capturing sound. It's just sound. So, say for instance, we're on set and we got a scene where, um, okay, for instance, when we was on set and we was doing buyer's remorse, and let's just say we had them walking up the stairs, and we say, oh, let's capture this person walking up the stairs, right? They're not Foley artists. This is the actual sound. Remember, Foley is actually inventing the sound, right? through human movement. And like you said, you got a Foley artist on a sound stage or in the studio walking on wood. And that's supposed to imitate somebody walking up steps. Opposed to if we're on set, we would call this wild sound because it's not synced sound, it's wild, right? So think about synced sound as something we know there's a certain part of the picture, like dialogue, that's gonna be synced. We use the slate. But if we just talking about capturing somebody walking up steps, that's like wild sound. That's different from Foley. It is the same premise, yes. But if you're talking about it, you don't want to say, let's capture Foley while we're in production. Foley is a post-production process because they're looking at the monitor and they're imitating them sounds, so they really can't do that on set. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. So my next question is this.
Mhm.
You say pick during the picture lock process, let's just say we do capture that wild sound. Would
Mhm.
that take place during the picture lock process, or would that take place like during the audio post-production
Okay,
process?
good question. Good question. That more than likely would take place in post. What you would do is, let's just say, throughout the whole movie, every scene we shoot, we get wild sound. We say, you know what? Because remember, making movies is about, telling the story, but it's also about time and money, right? So if you every scene we're gonna say, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna record everything that we're gonna need for Foley right now, so we don't need to do Foley. That's gonna take time. Knowing that it could be done during post production, right? There's money in the budget for the post production for Foley. So in a producer's mind and a director's mind, I don't want to do this now. Let the Foley artist do it. Let's continue making this movie, right? So that means that if we do capture wild sound at some point in production, we're just going to label it wild sound. And we're going to give it to the sound designer to say, hey, we got footsteps. But the sound designer might even take it personal. Oh, well, y'all got that? Y'all weren't confident enough to think that I could do it? So some of these Foley artists, you don't even know, right? So they might take it personal opposed to if you already know them, you'd be like, yeah, you know what? I know Jack is gonna provide awesome Foley. There's no need for us to even do this. Let's just move on. Let's just keep shooting the movie. So you would just label it, Lena. Just label it wild sound, person walking up steps. Give it to the editor. Tell the editor, hey, make sure you give that to the sound department when they start doing posts. We have it. He might say, well, they probably already got it, but thanks anyway. All right. But now, Lena, if you're making this movie yourself and you can't afford a sound designer or you can't afford Foley artist, then yes. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Okay. All right. So, analog tape film editing, Steinbeck, Moviola, these are all equipment. This is all equipment that they used back in the days. So, can y'all all see where my mouse is right here? This flatbed? There we go. Y'all see this right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's a Steinbeck, a flatbed. That's what they use to actually cut film and audio 16 millimeter back in the days. Okay, so 16 millimeter, people still
Are
use
there
16
certain
millimeter
dimensions on
film.
that?
Say that again, Brandon.
Are there certain dimensions on that?
When you say dimensions, you mean the dimensions for the
On the
actual.
flat table? Because I was on Adorama last night and I was
I can't hear
making
you.
a 4x4.
Uh-huh.
There's like this 4x4 like workstation for
Mm-hmm.
like audio, and it was under DJ, but it looked just like that.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's something that they're using now?
Well, they're selling it. I'm about to buy it, like, because
Wow, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna put it on the stage and shit.
All right. So if y'all look at this flatbed, if y'all look at the bottom right here where my mouse is right here, you see the mixers and the faders down here, right? So they have, this is an old piece of equipment, but the stuff that we're using today, it came from something. Like the idea came from somewhere. And this idea came from, like, I don't want to say prehistoric, but it came from old technology. And this
Yeah.
was pretty advanced technology when it was out.
That's like putting plugins like at your on your software
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a station. Yeah,
Right,
but
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
certain DJs do need preamps and mixers. So, I mean, I see why it was in DJ equipment now. But
Yep.
yeah, it's old school. Yeah.
Yeah, it's old school. Yeah. So you can look at this as an NLE and a DAW combined. You know, that's what this is what you can kind of look at it as, you know. So it's a Steinbeck, right? And the Moviola. So the Moviola is very similar. And I'll pull up an image of the Moviola when we come back from break. So studio wiring. All audio patch bays remain the same, but with picture comes new connections. Okay. So if anybody's familiar with audio patch bays, they have video patch bays. Okay. Signal flow is the same as audio, normal, half normal, or non-normal. Right. So video patch bays are, it's the same thing as what we do in Premiere. You know, it's almost like different layers of video. I say picture, right? But video
Mr.
patch
Robinson,
base. Yes.
could you please go back to that audio slide for 1 second?
This one,
Yes, I'm good. Never mind.
you got it? All right. So remember, as
Yeah, I got it.
you got it, David?
Yes.
Okay. So remember, as I said, you all gonna have access to this PDF at the end of class anyway. All right. So they said video barrel. So if y'all look at this, here's your video patch bay, right? And you have these wires here, right? And you actually patching your channels or patching your signals to go to different spots. So in Pro Tools, if you ever use Pro Tools, let's just say you have a sound and you want to send it through a signal processor, you'll take it out of where it might be going to your stereo master and you'll put it in a different a bay. And that bay takes you to like maybe delay, echo, reverb, or whatever, and then it channels back in, right? But for video, it's the same premise, it's the same idea. You're taking that video signal, let's just say you wanted to color correct or you wanted to make some changes to the video and then bring it back into the mainframe. That's what the video patch bays are for. All right. So post studio. So let's talk about post studio. All right. So differences. Post studio are different from music studios. Specialized rooms, they're bigger, big screens, holes in the floor, and let's take a look. Right? Then I'll show y'all some in a second. All right. When we come back from break, I'll show y'all some images. So re-recording stages, final mixing. So when you re-record, you have sides of a theater. So if y'all remember the theater room that's at the school, it's not a big theater, but it's pretty decent. Like if y'all had a home, right, and you had a theater room, I think the size theater room at the school would be cool to have, at home. Like if you got like a mansion or something, you know what I'm saying? Like, you pretty well off, got like $1 million mansion. You got a room that can fit maybe 20, 30, 25, 30 people, and they can get a good experience, right? So when they do recordings, when you are at a recording, re-recordings or final mixing, you want to kind of have the same experience. You don't want to put yourself in a small room. You want to put yourself in a decent sized room. You got monitors, you're hearing the surround sound, you're getting the full effect that everybody's going to get in the theater. That's what you want. All right. So speakers, same distance away. So if anybody knows anything about mixing, you got to have equal distance of your monitors or your speakers. There's a sweet spot. Okay. So if y'all see where I'm sitting, so if I move back, right? So it should be even on either side, right? So when the signal comes and it hits me, right? It hits me at the same time. So when I'm mixing, I get a good idea of a balanced mix. If I'm too far this way, if I'm too close to this monitor, or I'm too close to this monitor, I'm not going to get the desired effect that I need. All right. So what you do is you try to find a sweet spot. So anybody that's going to develop their own home studio, right? And you got, even if you just have a surround sound theater at home, right? You want to have your monitor in the middle, right? And then you want to have like your TV monitor in the middle. Then you have your monitors. So monitor, when I say monitor, when I'm talking about sound, I'm talking about speakers. You have them left and right, right? And when they come in your sweet spot, that's where you're going to hear that balanced sound. So if it's stereo, and then if you're going to pan left and right, all the dynamic things that you can do with sound, you get the full effect. Okay. So in this PowerPoint, it says speakers. If you're in a studio, anybody that's used to being in a studio, we don't usually call them speakers, we call them monitors. All right. But then you'll get confused with a TV monitor and a audible monitor. So that you basically
Computer
just,
monitor.
yeah, you
But
get all mixed up. You get all mixed
I
up.
wanted to say there's this really cool app made by JBL, and you can put your phone where you would be at, and it has like the little radius of where your speakers, and it tells you exactly where to put
Okay.
your speakers,
Uh-huh.
in conjunction to where you're plugging. I mean, where you're recording. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Put
pretty cool app.
put that in the chat too. Put that in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So listen, it's 10:50. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. When we come back, we'll continue with this PowerPoint. As I said to you all, when y'all come back, make sure you sign into the chat. Make sure y'all take notes, because this is basically going to be on your midterm. All the stuff in these PowerPoints was going to be on your midterm. Okay. So make sure y'all take notes. So I'll see you all in 10 minutes, 11 o'clock. All right, everybody, we're back. Please sign into the chat. All right. As I said, I was going to show you all a picture of a moviola. So right here, this is what a moviola look like. This is what they would edit film on. This is pretty old. They don't use these anymore. But this is they say this is the first moviola, and they all kind of look the same. They've advanced in time, but I mean they still kind of look the same. If you look at this one was from Brad Mays editing his first feature film, Stage Fright, on an upright moviola in 1987. This looked like the one that Steven Spielberg used, and his editor, I forget what her name is. She's a female editor, but she had a moviola in her pool house, and they edited Jaws in her pool house. All right. So we're going to continue. We're going to continue with the PowerPoint. Right. So we were here. You're talking about the size of a theater, speakers, same distance away, calibrated volume level. Many follow standards created by THX and Dolby. So as I said, THX and Dolby, those were the companies that actually changed the game as far as sound was concerned. So THX is owned by George Lucas. I don't know if he still owns it. All right. So George Lucas is a filmmaker. He has a compound in San Francisco with Lucas, Star Wars. Even though he sold Star Wars, I believe he still owns that compound.
He sold
right?
that too.
He sold that too?
He sold THX.
So if y'all all don't know, I didn't know that he sold THX, but I think you're right, Shamari. He might have.
Like
But
3 years ago.
So say that again.
He sold it like 5 years ago to like a gaming computer company.
Okay. For how much?
Let's see. It says its worth is like.
And whoever just signed in, make sure or logged in, make sure you sign into the chat. Everybody, sign into the chat. Go ahead, Shamar.
It says somewhere in the range between 1 billion, like 1,063 million.
Okay, so if anybody doesn't know, George Lucas, he owned Star Wars franchise. He sold it to Disney for 3.2 billion, I believe. Dan, you say he just sold THX 5 years ago for 1 point something billion. So he probably
actually sold it to somebody else in 2002, and then he sold it to China for 66 million. To Chinese companies, and they sold it for like 1 billion.
Oh, okay. All right. So he didn't get $1 billion for that, but he got three billion and some change for the Star Wars franchise, and then he got money for that. All right. But he started off small. If y'all don't know, I mean, he went to film school. It was him and 4 other people. Spielberg was one of them, but he didn't go to film school. But it was George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Brian De Palma, and Steven Spielberg. They were all like friends, and they all came up around the same time making movies in like the 70s. Right? So they came from nothing. They were just making movies. And they actually changed the landscape for films till today. And all of them are still alive and still making movies. All right. Lucas is probably the richest. I would think Steven Spielberg is probably second, and then it kind of like trickles down. But they all started this, ideas and making films. So this is the ranch I was talking about. We're gonna look at it. But Skywalker Ranch is basically what Lucas Shamari said he sold it. I think you should double check
That's
that.
Skywalker Ranch, though. He
Huh?
sold he sold the THX stuff.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is he has a ranch in San Francisco.
Yeah, I was good. I was looking at Google while you guys were talking about that. There is still a ranch compound headquarters.
Yep.
Where that he owns in San Fran.
Yeah.
He still owns Skywalker Ranch, but he sold his properties like THX.
Yeah. THX. I saw all that data too.
Okay, so
they were talking about something else.
All right. So I want you all. What we'll do is we're gonna take a look at the compound. I want y'all to have a look at it. And Mary, mute your microphone. I think that was you, but make sure you sign in.
I have a friend that got to go on Skywalker Ranch.
I know some people that have been there. I've been out to San Francisco. I'm gonna try to get on the lot if I can, but it's a compound. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they don't know you, you're not getting on.
He said it was like the size of an amusement park. Like,
say that again.
He said it was like the size of an amusement park, like a Disney World. Like,
I believe it. I believe it.
They had to take golf carts everywhere. They couldn't walk anywhere.
Okay. Well, we're about to take a look at the website, and we're gonna look around. So I want you all to kind of get an idea on the possibilities. Starting somewhere.
Things you can acquire from mass film success.
Yeah. It starts off with small things. Everybody, just don't think you're gonna have a major film, big blockbuster film, and it's just not gonna probably happen that way. It could. Y'all might even hire me. You never know. So here's Skywalker Ranch. This is the website, right? And if y'all all can see it, it's just gonna flash pictures. So that building and the land around it is all owned by him, right? All owned by George. So if y'all see all this right here, and it's changed. So I'm gonna see if they've actually put the changes up on the website. I actually believe this is kind of like an old website. It's not been done over. Let's see. Skywalker Ranch. They have an inn, the dining. I don't even think it looks like this anymore. This is the pool. This is the library. One of the houses. The observatory.
I was thinking about old tobacco. Those vineyards just made me think of it, man. Yeah. I'm from Virginia, man, and they still have plantations that are neatly kept with tobacco leaves, just tobacco was the root of American commerce.
Yeah.
Colonial days.
It's still big. Shoot.
It's huge. They got the Phillips plant in Virginia. But I'm seriously considering going to shoot a film in Virginia this summer.
Well, just check. And for all of you, I'm glad you brought that up. For all of you, there are guidelines that you have to go through, okay, because of COVID. So any state that you go to, the guidelines are going to be different. And if you decide to film in any other state, you say, I want to leave Georgia, go shoot here, go shoot there. Make sure you do your research and find out the guidelines, because you don't want to get shut down. And they're shutting down major productions just because of people not following COVID guidelines.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I always know that there's somebody you need to talk to for any location and to get locations, and then you got to talk to the county too, get the state approval, and then so I think anywhere I go to film, when I pull the trigger on it, it'll be well executed, and I'll have my back.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
preparation. That's all we really talking about is pre-production, y'all.
yeah.
So if you look at this picture, this is an old picture of Lucas Studios or the ranch. This was from 1987, right? Right. So Sundance Labs at Walker Sound. So Sundance Lab, they have a lab up at Skywalker Ranch. So Sundance, when they have labs like these big film festivals have labs like Sundance and Tribeca, they'll have labs in certain studios. So that's something that you all can get into. You'll submit and when you get into writing, let's just say you write a really good script and you get it into a conservatory or some type of contest you win, they might have you might be eligible to be in a lab, and in the lab they'll actually nurture your project from the idea to birthing it, to getting it done. Okay, so this is all going to be on the PowerPoint. As I said, you all will have the PowerPoint. We can actually y'all can actually look at it. The link is right here. The link is right here. So you all can kind of look at it, but you should all look at it. Remember, this is sound design class, and it gives you an idea of the foundation and how, like I said, people that came out of film school, how they started from nothing and they actually evolved to having something major. All right. And here's Warner Brothers post-production house. So if you see how big this stage is, so as I said, when I talked about sound stages, right, you're talking about sound stages with production, but this is post-production suites. So if you see the size of that suite, and that's just so that they can mix sound for a movie, all right? That's like a little theater. That's not the theater that I was talking about if you had bought a mansion or whatever and you got a little studio or theater room in your house. This is like, you see the size of that screen?
That's not the same theater.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
that's
see
very
how
good.
far away they are from the screen? So they're trying to make sure they get the experience that they're going to give everybody in the theater. And for them to do that, they have to be in the right the right square footage. You know what I'm saying? They have to be able to emulate that. So the best way to do it, because there are tools that can, for shortcuts, but you're talking about a major studio. You're talking about Warner Brothers. They're not trying to cut corners. They're trying to make sure that they have everything. So this is an example of a company not cutting corners, right? They can say, hey, let's just put some headphones on, or let's just have a small room surround sound. They'll get the same effect. We don't know. So they said, nah, let's not do that. Let's build this big room. All right.
It's awesome.
You all, y'all make your movies, submit it to film festivals. A film festival might like it or accept it. They play it. Somebody from Warner Brothers is there to like your story. They'll say, hey, you know what? We got this lab at Warner Brothers. Bring your project. We'll fly you out. Next thing you know, you sitting in this room with a post-production supervisor, and they're basically doing sound for your film. That can be that can be a goal of yours. That can be something that can happen. So don't think it's impossible. Okay. So scoring stages, large spaces to fit an orchestra, conductor faces screen to lead the orchestra based on pace of the film, constructed like a symphony hall. So if anybody's ever been to a symphony hall or seen an orchestra play, and you have to be like in this big auditorium, right? And all the musicians are on this stage, and it's like overwhelming the sound. Not overwhelming where it's like like it bothers your ears, not like that, but it's almost like sound fills the room.
Yeah, you can feel it. Like
Yeah.
it creates emotions, and like orchestra is really awesome. I've been
Yeah.
getting into those sounds lately in my production.
Yeah. So there are apps that y'all can download that can give you a symphonic sound. And what you do is you layer these sounds. So you layer them because if there's an orchestra, there's going to be more than one violin, more than one trumpet, more than one horn. I think there's usually one or two as far as percussions are concerned, but there's always more than one instrument. So that's where layering comes in. If you want your sound to sound like a symphony, right? You layer it. So maybe you have a violin string. You'll layer that maybe 6 or 7 times, all right, to kind of get that symphonic sound to feel, all right? So sound stages, or excuse me, scoring stages. So here's an image of one. So you see all these, so you see the big screen behind them. So you see the composer down here at the bottom, and he's actually, they're not looking at the screen, he is. He's controlling the pace. So as he's watching the movie, he's controlling all these instruments by having them work at a certain pace, all right? So here's another link. Lyndhurst scoring. So let's look at this real quick. We'll look at this real quick. And as I said, this is going to be on your final. All the stuff is going to be, I mean, your final, excuse me, your midterm. Okay, so this is what comes up when I clicked on that link. It says Air 50. I don't know if this is the right link. Let me see. Yep, studio, representation, mastering, projects, history, and contact, Air 50. So let's click on studios. Lyndhurst Hall. So here are the different studios. So let's click on Lyndhurst. So look at this. So this I've seen this studio a few times for a lot of films. And this is where they basically bring a orchestra, bring them in, and a full symphony orchestra and choir simultaneously with inspiring acoustics that musicians love. So built in 1884 by Alfred Waterhouse. I remember, I think I've seen a documentary on Amy Winehouse, and she was actually performing in here. All right. Architect of Natural History Museum, Lyndhurst Hall is now one of the world's largest recording rooms. Live area accommodates a full symphony. Yeah, so it's major. That's major. All right. They got acoustic design and 5.1 monitoring, and Studio 2 make it one of the best mixed rooms in the world, whether you're using classic SSL analog console with a wide range of vintage outboard or Pro Tools mixing. The spacious control room provides an ideal creative environment. All right, so you all, like I said, you all can actually look at this, pull this up. I think this is interesting. It's really interesting. All right. All right, Foley stage. All right, so we've been talking about Foley. Foley, for creating sound effects with effects relate to movements of living creatures mostly. Messy with different props to make any sound imaginable. Foley pits, holes in floor with different types of surface to walk on, wood, creaky solid, sand, grass, rocks, concrete. Right, so we saw the video on the Foley. So any questions with Foley? Any questions or anything we've seen so far? If you say something, Cedric, I can't hear you.
No, I was saying not yet.
Okay. All right. All right. So here's a Warner Brothers Foley, their soundstage or where they create Foley. And this looks similar to what we had watched before. This kind of that look like the same guy. Not sure if it is, but looks like the same guy. So if anybody is interested in creating their own kind of like their own Foley, their own stage, or if you got a room at home, you want to convert into a Foley area, let me know. I can help you get that done. All right. And
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No problem.
I got an idea last night. as far as the Foley. So I
Uh-huh.
was thinking about creating a Foley pack for myself and selling it. Would
Yeah.
that be a thing that we can do?
Yeah, that's something that you can do as long as it's your own, right?
Yeah.
I want you all to think about this. Yeah, Deshaun, but I'm gonna tell you what you all need to think about as far as what Deshaun said in any project and anything that you want to do. Remember, the film business is as far as investment, long-term investment. Okay. So when you get into film, and I'm gonna be honest with you, just about anything you get into is long-term because it's about you. It's about you sticking to it. It's about you not quitting, right? So let's just say, for instance, I'm gonna use Deshaun's example. He creates a sound library based off of Foley sounds, right? Now he sells them. Like he'll go around or he'll meet people and say, "Hey, I got this library and I'll sell it to you. It's a bunch of Foley sounds that I created." And you've already done it already, right? You selling it. So this is something that you walk around. It's like intellectual property. It's yours, you own it. You walking around and you selling this, it's already done. You can profit from it from the rest of your life. As long as you're not taking sounds from somebody else. So for instance, all those sounds that I gave you in the sound library, you can't use those. Like you can't sell them. If you get caught, you can get in trouble. Now you probably won't get caught. But what I'm saying is that's why I'm not selling it to y'all. I'm giving it to you. Right? I'm not trying to make money off it. I'm trying to educate y'all. I want y'all to have as much information possible. But once you start selling somebody else's work, that's how you can get in trouble or get caught. Okay. Even a small thing like a sound library, you'd be like, oh man, it just sounds, man. Ain't nobody gonna, but think about it. Would you want somebody to take your work and sell it? Whether you can get away with it or not. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
something you might not want to do. So what I'm saying is with Sean's idea, if it's your work and you want to sell it, if you make a movie, a lot of people start selling things out of their trunk. I mean, I know y'all have heard that. You sell it out of your trunk. It's yours. You sell it. It's already made. It's already done. Your intellectual property. You can make money off it for the rest of your life. Now, if you take that idea that you're talking about, Deshaun, and this is just basically what the major studios do. When they make these movies, they got sound library, all this stuff. This is why they do this, so that they can continue to make money off of this. Warner Brothers has a Foley stage, which means that anybody they hire to make Foley sounds, that's Warner Brothers property, not their property. These people are getting paid a salary. And Warner Brothers has, like Brandon was saying, a catalog. So they got a catalog of sound. Warner Brothers owned all of Prince's stuff before he left them, right? He didn't like how they was operating, right? But they own all of his stuff. So that means that they'll make money off of all of that Prince music, Purple Rain and anything before it. Warner Brothers is making money off of that to this day, right? So what I'm saying is when you own something, it's yours. If you do everything right legally, you can sell it for the rest of your life, long-term investment. You make a movie. I'll say this time and time again. Y'all go into Walmart, y'all seeing movies where they got the DVDs, movies that came out before y'all were even born, before I was born. People are still making money off of them. All right. So yeah, Deshaun, great idea. Don't expect to make no money and fly off to Mexico no time soon. But
Right.
right, but you might make enough money to pay your cell phone bill, to pay your car note. You know what I'm saying? It all started somewhere. If you think about it, and I'm sure this is how Tyler Perry started when he started doing his stage performances. He probably made enough money to just rent out the stage and to pay people, right? Even he probably didn't even pay people at first because he was just starting out. So the money started coming, it started growing. He's an example of somebody starting something and not diverting from his plan. He had a plan and he just was focused. Now, with this plan, you might hurt people's feelings sometimes. Business is business. You know, that's what I'm saying with Warner Brothers hiring these people to do the Foley. They might feel like, well, we doing all the work. Well, they paying you. It's their company. If you don't like it and you walk, they just gonna replace you with some other Foley artist to make the sounds, right? So just know
You gotta
all
pay
this.
people.
As I said, we in audio class, but I told you everything is connected. The picture, the audio, production is everything is connected. So when you invest in yourself, it's a long-term investment. You know what I'm saying? Do your research, do your homework. But yeah, good idea. Good idea, Sean. I say do it. And like I said, if you have a room, Start out that way. If you need help, let me know.
I'm gonna definitely let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So look at this Foley room. Look at this Foley room. You see these little pits on the floor? That's where people walk. So they got different textures of material in these holes in the floor. And people will walk in them to imitate the sound or emulate the sounds for the movie. Right? So this is dope. Like, you know, I would love to have a room like this, you know. So you got a lot of money, you know what I'm saying? So you can have a room in your house or in your mansion that's dedicated to Foley, you know. This is how there are some people, Robert Rodriguez, the one that did Sin City, he did El Mariachi, he did Spy Kids. He bought, if anybody's seen the movie called The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, Robert Rodriguez bought the site. Like there was a site that they used for the movie to actually film the movie. He bought, I think, parts of it, and he brought it to, I think, where he lives in Texas, and he actually uses that as his studio. So he has his own studio on his property. He has like a ranch, and ain't no way near the size of George Lucas Ranch, but he has space where he makes his movies. So nobody can stop him from making his movie. Robert Rodriguez is another example. He came from nothing. I think El Mariachi, when he made it, it was $6,000, something like that. And now this dude has his own studio. He's doing his own thing. There's a book called, I'm looking to see if I know I have the book. It's in my house somewhere. I think it's the guy with a camera, something like that. I'll pull it up so y'all can see. He's an example of somebody that basically, if all of you have a job, like let's just say you work a 9 to 5 or whatever, and you go into school and you file your taxes and you get tax return. Save that tax return money, make a movie, make sure you got all your paperwork, license it, you'll make that money back. I'm gonna also send y'all another link with a guy that talks about how you can make money off of making films by just relicensing them. Make a decent amount of money, okay? All right, okay, so Foley, keep talking. All right, so Sony, now look at Sony's Foley stage. So Sony Picture Studios offers 3 Foley stages, Foley A, Foley B, and C, with top award-winning Foley artists and mixers. So those people that you seen on their knees and they get Academy Awards now. All right. Well, it says top award-winning. I think they do get Academy Awards now. They didn't always, but the Foley pits, surfaces, and props are extensive equipment to record to digital audio dubbers or analog tape and project with the latest Sony video technology. And they even got a phone number here. All right, so here's a number. Y'all want to call them and contact them. Here's the thing. I know that you all might think, "Oh man, I ain't gonna call Sony, man. They ain't gonna take my call." You never know. People in the film business sometimes are more friendly than you know. Now, I'm not saying that they won't. I'm not saying that they will. I'm saying my mentor always told me the answer is always going to be no unless you ask. So if you sit here thinking, well, I ain't going to call them, that's just the same thing as them saying no, because you didn't even give them a call to see, right? Give them a call.
You have not because you ask not, right?
Right? Same thing. If you don't ask, it's always going to be no. You're not really going to get a response. But if you call them up, hey, I'm a film student. They might not be able to give you exactly what you need, but they might say, hey, you a film student? We got a program. Or go to this part of the site and see all the stuff you can kind of look into. So explore, everybody. Explore, all right? So this is Sony's soundstage. And if you blow it up, when y'all get this PowerPoint, at the bottom, here are the 3 stages right here. The A, B, and the C, I think, right here. So here are the 3 stages, I believe. Any questions? All right. Some post-production basics. Components of a soundtrack: dialogue, music, and effects. Okay. So we know what's the 2 things missing?
Foley.
And what else? All right, come on now. What else is missing? Somebody say something so we can continue. I'm gonna be stubborn. I'm gonna sit here until somebody say the last one.
Background.
Thank you. Background, right? Dialogue, music, sound effects, Foley, and background. All right. So this is components of a soundtrack. So just remember, right? When it just says components of a soundtrack, they're just considering the music as background or the sound effects as background, or at that discussion that we always have, is it Foley or is it sound effects, right? We keep going back and forth, but you all do have an understanding and an idea on what it is. And you can look at it this way: Foley artists create sound effects. All right. That's another way you can look at it. Foley artists create sound effects. They're creating Foley. It's a technique, it's something that's used, but, and you know, we take sounds and we mix them up to create certain things. Sound is very interesting. So music is the score, a jingle, environmental music, or soundtrack music. That's the music component. So the music component has 4 subcategories: the score, a jingle, environmental music, soundtrack music. All right. So dialogue, production sounds recorded on the set during filming. So you have wild lines, dialogue recorded on the set, not during filming. So what that means is I told you I worked on a TV show, and after we finished shooting the scene, we brought the actors into this room and we captured wild lines. Just them going through their lines, because we knew that there was some sounds going on. They didn't want to stop shooting the scene, so we captured wild lines. It wasn't while they were filming. We were in a room separated from the crew. They were actually, when we were on the sound stage and they was getting another part of the stage ready for us to shoot another scene, we went and captured wild lines, okay? ADR, automatic dialogue replacement. Replacement dialogue recorded after the fact in the studio in sync to the picture. So we all seen that when you do ADR, you're in the studio, there's a monitor up, and there's a person looking at the screen, looking at the monitor, looking at themselves act. And they're actually going over the lines. It's a loop, and they'll go over and over again until they get it, okay? Okay, voiceover, studio dialogue, not in sync to picture, all right? So studio dialogue, that's basically voiceover like narration. Remember, narration is narration. It's not sync to anybody talking. It's just somebody talking over the picture. Your narrator. Morgan Freeman does it a lot and does it well, all right? Effects, so here you go. And Lena, are you looking?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, so that's why I said they had 3 categories in the subcategory. So I said effects, right? So effects, they basically is considering that Foley, sound design, ambience, backgrounds, hard effects, production effects pulled from location sounds. Okay. Here we go, Jack Foley. Here's a picture of Jack Foley. We've been talking about him. Here's a picture of him.
Why somebody put little head on there?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe it's a joke and then we'll get to the punchline, or maybe somebody can research and find out. I don't know. Jack Foley. Foley artists. Some of the best Foley artists are women. Replace footsteps, clothing sounds, door, body falls, etc. Why do you think they're saying some of the best Foley artists are women?
Because men destroy things and women nurture.
Well,
that's
Brandon,
so sweet.
That would have been my answer. That would have been my answer. But I'm not sure if that's the right answer. I actually agree with you. I'm not sure if that's the right answer.
I got that from you. I stole that from you. You said it last. You said it last spring sometime.
Okay. Yeah. So that is basically what they say as far as, and Quentin Tarantino has said it in an interview. He has said, as an editor, he wanted a woman editor because a woman is going to nurture his film, and a man might be trying to force his agenda on him as a director. So
Yeah. He said something like that in what's that documentary you had us watch?
The Final Cut.
no,
Yes.
that's not yet, Cedric. That ain't the name of it. It ain't called
The
Final.
Cutting Edge. The Cutting
The
Edge.
Cutting Edge, right?
Thank you. The Cutting Edge.
The Cutting
Yes.
Edge.
Yes. But if you think about what Brandon said, what Quentin Tarantino said, what Brandon said he got from me last spring, if you think about this, females, they bring life into this world, right? And they have that motherly instinct. So their instinct, just by nature, is to nurture. You know, is to take something and to raise it from a baby to an adult. You know, men, on the other hand, I'm not saying men don't think that way or men can't do it, but if you think about war and the history of just this world, it's been men fighting, men killing, men trying to conquer, right? So you take that mindset and saying, okay, I'm gonna make a movie. Who do I want to work with me on my movie? And not saying you don't want males working with you, but when you get to a part where you want to edit, you want to implement sound, you want to take time and you want to nourish and you want to be delicate with something, you gonna go to a big muscular dude with an attitude, or you gonna go to a female that is basically looking at it like, oh, this is nice, and like, so as I'm saying, it's up to you. You really want somebody that's skilled enough to make your movie, right? But you got three filmmakers. You got Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and Quentin Tarantino. They all have female editors. I want you to think about their films. And that's basically what their mindset was. I'm gonna get a female editor, you know? So, just think about that. Think about that. All right, so Foley. Foley artists, some of the best Foley artists are women, replace footsteps, clothing, sounds, door, body falls, etc. So to sum it up, a movie soundtrack components are dialogue, music, effects, DM&E. So that DM&E, all right, so you're going back to effects, that dialogue, okay? Dialogue, and then you have music, right? Dialogue, DM&E, dialogue, music, and effects. Okay. So house standards, many editors on single projects, right? So when they say house standards, that means like a studio. So if you work at a studio, let's just say I make a movie, I got a studio. So let's just say I got Cedric, I got Deshaun, I got Brandon, and I got Shamari. They're my editors. I made this movie. I'm gonna have all of them editing my movie, right? They're all gonna have separate tasks. Or if it's basically sound, they're gonna attack different sounds. So I'll have Brandon working the dialogue, I'll have Cedric working the effects, I'll have Shamari working the music. So you basically delegate, have them working. Instead of having one person doing anything, you have three people giving 100% to what they're doing, right? So each studio has organizational standards, so information can be passed between sessions. So that's similar to if we all worked in the same place and we all had our computers and they were all linked together, right? So Cedric can send Brandon something, Brandon can send Shamari something, Shamari can send Deshaun something, right? Everything, so it ain't like you got to get up out your chair, Shamari got to bring Cedric a drive, he got to download it, all that stuff. No, everything is up on the server. Everybody be able to grab things on the server and make things move quicker, all right? There are mostly very similar with slight variations based on preferences. English is a little off in this PowerPoint. I didn't write it. They are mostly very similar with slight variations based on preferences, okay. Based on the technical requirements of the delivery medium. So technical requirements of a delivery medium. So what Netflix might want different specs than maybe a major studio, or it going theatrical, right? So you got to know where you're sending this deliverable, this master, how they want it. They're going to give you technical specs before you even get started. You're going to know whether you have the capabilities to do it or not, right? And if you don't, what you can do is, as I said, invest in yourself until you do have everything that you can use, or equipment that you have, so you can submit everything, or you hire a third party to do it for you. All right. So sampling rates, 48,000 or a multiple thereof. That's like the kilohertz, right? Remember, we're talking about sound now, right? So you got DVD up to 24 bits at 48K, Blu-ray, HD DVD 96K, digital video decks, Digibeta 20-bit 48K, then mini DV, DVC Pro 16-bit 48K. So it goes from this is their hierarchy, and it goes down. So back when I started making movies, I was using mini DVs and a Panasonic camera, little tape, about this big, and we were making movies. Okay. So your bit depth, 24-bit bit depth affects dynamic range. So the loudest to the quietest sound. It's the same thing with cameras. So Brandon, with your Black Magic, it has pretty good dynamic range in the bit depth. All right. So even though we're talking about sound now, the same applications apply.
Right.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Need accurately reproduce quiet sounds like clothing and movement, can dither to different formats. So dithering, if anybody's worked in Pro Tools, there's a dither at the end when you master your music. You can put a dither on it. All right. So it allows different formats, and when you dither, it does something. It actually, I don't want to say truncates, because truncate is the wrong word, but bit depth allows you, just think of bit depth as a well, all right? And the deeper this well is, the more you can basically hear. Like they said, the loudest to the quietest. With cameras, with the image, is how deep can you see into the blacks? How deep can you see into the whites? You don't want it to be overexposed. You don't want it to be too underexposed. But if you don't have great bit depth, just a little bit of black is going to be too black, right? But if you got a good camera with good dynamic range, you can see into the blacks pretty well. And that's what you want. Same thing with sound. You want good bit depth, so the loudest to the quietest sound. So you might be able to hear a really low hiss, or your 808, your low frequency sound is really booming, but it's not going to blow out your monitors. You'll feel it, but it's not going to be, it's like it's too loud. It's more or less like a feeling, opposed to it just being loud. We're not talking about turning the volume up. That's not what we're talking about. With sound, with cameras, we're not talking about making it brighter or darker. That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about capabilities, techniques, and technology, okay? All right, file format, broadcast wave, can maintain timestamp and metadata. So if you have a waveform or a wave file, there's metadata that has a timestamp on it, where this metadata has all the information in your wave file. That's the point of these extensions. These extensions allow you to, if you have a Mac, you can click on it, and the information that can come up, all you have to do is hit the categories and the arrows, and they'll kind of show you the subcategories of the metadata for your file. All right. So just don't think when you click on it and you might see 24 frames, 1920 by 1080, that's all your metadata. No, it's going to go much deeper than that. You just have to know where to look for it and how to find it. Okay. Frame rate, depending on the delivery format. All right. So if you are shooting a film in the United States, your frame rate is going to probably be like 24 frames. But if you shoot in Tokyo or just different parts of the world, your frame rate will be 25 frames. Okay. So it's different when you leave the United States. So that's what we get into. Lowest common denominator for American TV is NTSC video standard, right? So 29.97 non-drop frames. That's what, if it was, that's non-drop 29.97 or 30, all right? But Brandon, that's what we're gonna figure out. So even so, if Brandon shot at 30 frames, right? But then his timeline was 29.97. When you first play it, it's gonna be synced. It's gonna be fine. But as you go further down, yep, it's gonna be like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem, and that just 0.3 that we talking about in time will change. So you think about it, if you have a 2-hour movie and it's gonna start out, it's not going to make it. All right. So this is how you kind of get the frame. And Brandon, this is good because you learning this now. You don't want to like have a deliverable for somebody and not know this, because I remember when I started,
It'd be a headache.
I was under the impression 29.97 was 30. So I said, if you had 29.97 or 30, it's the same thing.
Yeah, right. May as well be.
Right. You think it's the same thing until your 15-minute film, the person is not, the sync isn't there. So, and if you've ever seen a movie where a person's mouth, like it was out of sync, this might have been the reason, because they thought it was the right frame rate. They already put it in the system. It's already up in broadcast. And when after it's broadcast is live, they didn't take the time out to watch the entire movie to see that frame, those frames drop.
Okay? So that frame rate is the answer. It's got to be the same.
It's supposed to be, yes, sir.
When shot on the camera.
Yep.
As this Premiere frame rate when you upload your.
Okay, so you got 3 factors. So everybody listen, you got 3 factors. When you are recording your image, it says 29.97, right? 29.97. That's for your camera, right? Then you have your sound, your recording device. Now, your recording device, depending on what type of recording device you have, some of them are very savvy, and some of them might allow you to record audio at 29.97 and record image at 30. I don't know why you would want to do that, but I'm just saying, right? So let's just say you got 3 factors. You got your camera, you got your recording device that's recording audio, right? So so if Brandon was recording something at 30 frames, the camera should be 30 frames. The recording device that's recording audio should be 30 frames. When he brings it into Premiere, Final Cut, Avid, whatever, that should be 30 frames. If any one of those is at 29.97, something is going to be off. If any one of those is not at 30, one of them is going to be off. And eventually you'll watch it and you won't be able to tell the difference if it's a short video. But if it's a long video, you might catch it. You'll catch it then. All right, so frame rate, first frame of action is 01.000000. It never starts at 00. 01, video start. Session start, 0059590000. So your frame, your first frame is at 01, but your session starts at 00595500. So your universal SMPTE leader, right? So SMPTE leader, and then you got your machine pre-roll.
I don't think I understand that.
What you don't understand is the frame rate in the session. Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, so your frame rate, your first frame of action. So when you start recording, right, and your time, your total running time. So your total running time, right? Hold on one second, everybody. Okay, I'm sorry. So your first frame of action is 010000, but your video starts. So your session, so the session would be your editing session, right? But your first frame, when you're recording in your camera, is going to go 01000000. So that is basically you got hours, minutes, and frames, right? So those last 3 are hours, minutes, frames. What comes after hours?
Frames.
No. I'm sorry. What comes before hours? My bad.
Days.
Days. Thank you.
Oh, days.
So that's why you would start at 01. Because nobody is going to be recording for 24 straight hours. So it's always day 1, Deshaun. Okay.
So that first number furthest to the left is the day.
Day, right. So okay. The second one is hours. No, I'm sorry. My fault. the first one is hours. I'm sorry. So you got
Okay.
hours, minutes, seconds, and frames.
Okay.
All right. But as I said with days, so when you go to your session start, so you see here where you got 59 minutes, 50 seconds, and 0 frames. So that 0, 0, that's your session start. A session would be like a post session. Okay. So when I'm talking about days, so if depending on where you work and where you go, there'll be another form of zeros, but those zeros are in relation to, as I said, production numbers. Okay, so that's totally different. So when I said day, I'm thinking about production numbers. So as I said, you don't shoot, you're never going to shoot for 24 hours straight. That's where you get into production numbers. So your first one, your 0, 1, your first frame. So that's what I'm saying. When you're talking about first frames of action, you can't look at it as hours. It's a little confusing. It's a little confusing, but you can't look at it as hours because your first frame of action is not going to be hours.
Oh, okay. I get it now.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a little confusing, and I'll somewhat we'll actually go through that as well. I'll break it down a little further for you as well. All right, but
so as far as this goes, your your counter grows to the left, right?
right. So your counter grows. Cedric said your counter grows to the left. So right here, you got this 0, 0 right here. It's gonna go up. This is why you got 59, 50, and 0, 0 here. Yeah, so it goes up just like a counter. Just like a counter, it goes up. The last one is frames. The last 2 zeros are frames. Okay. So you know you got 24 frames per second?
Yes.
Right. So those are the frames. All right. All right. So look, we're going to go on a break, another break. We're going to come back at 12 o'clock. We'll come back at 12:02, actually. All right.
All right.
See you all at 12:02. All right, everybody, we back. Please sign into the chat. All right, we're going to get back to the PowerPoint. So we started this semester, we had talked about the Tupac. All right, so that's kind of like a pre-roll or lead in. So Tupac is 1 frame kilohertz tone, 2 seconds before FFOA, corresponds to picture number 2, SMPTE, used for syncing picture to sound. Okay, so just remember that when you actually have a lead in, you have a lead in for a sound, or you have a lead in for something. You'll use the syncing picture to sound. And we had went through some examples of it. But what SMPTE stands for Society of Motion Pictures and Television Engineers. Hold on 1 second. Now this thing isn't working. Okay. All right, so we're going to jump into another PowerPoint. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Okay. And Shamari, what you put that number in there for? What was that for?
That was how much El Mariachi cost.
7,000. Okay. So if anybody is seeing El Mariachi, it was $7,000, 225, $7,225. $7,225 Robert Rodriguez paid for his first feature film. And it basically opened all doors for him. So as I said, if y'all know his movies, Dusk Till Dawn, Spy Kids, the El Mariachi, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and what was the middle one? The one.
Desperado.
What was it? Was 3 of them. It was El Mariachi,
Desperado,
and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Right.
Y'all talking about them movies with Antonio Banderas?
Yep. The first one was called El Mariachi, and he wasn't in that one. He wasn't in the first one. He was in the second one and the third one, but Robert Rodriguez continued the story because he needed once he did that first one and he got studio money, he was able to afford like a well-known actor. So he figured, based on what he was doing, if I really want to make a name in Hollywood, let me get this well-known actor involved. So he got Banderas. Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about, as far as sound is concerned, that was kind of like an intro to post-production. So now we're going to get into post. Okay, we're going to get into post work, post-production workflow. Okay, post-production workflow. So as you know, you got to, like I told you all before, you get picture lock, and this will allow you. And thank you for that, Shamari. um, Post work allows you to, once you have picture lock, you get to enhance your movie with sound. So we talked about the different things that are included, but this is the cycle. You got pre-production, production, and post-production. And as that article said, even in pre-production, you should be thinking about sound, okay? You should be thinking about what I can do to make this a really good movie. Now, this is not in the PowerPoint, but if anybody has seen an Edgar Wright movie, Edgar Wright did Shaun of the Dead, he did Hot Fuzz, he did Baby Driver. He got a kind of like a horror film about to come out soon. He's really good with implementing sound with just about everything he does in his movies. And sometimes it's very subtle, but he incorporates sound with his transitions, his camera movement, anything that's going on in the narrative. So he's a good example of using sound for film. All right, so remember pre-production, production, and post-production. So before shooting begins, you write your script, get your money together, you hire your people, storyboard, just like we said, etc. Right? These are the things that and there's a whole lot in between. Okay, there's a whole lot because you just don't write a script and get money. It don't work that way. You got to go through hoops sometimes to get money unless you got your own money. Hiring people, you got to hire the right people, right? When you hire people, then you storyboard, it says, etc. You know, to kind of get things going, right? Right. So producer, money boss, ultimate decision maker. Yes. So some people may say, oh, I thought the director was in charge. The director is in charge artistically, and that's for movies, not for TV. For TV, the producer is usually the person that started the show or the showrunner. That is the person that's in charge artistically and sometimes money-wise too, okay? So then you have the producer gets the script, uses that to pull to raise money, pull to raise money, hires key personnel, the director, the actors, and you know, other people. So the director is the creative boss, like I said. He's in charge of everything, not relating to money. Usually hires the director of photography. So as a director, when I'm directing a movie, I have certain people I want to photograph my movie. I'll give them a call and hope that they're free. If they're busy, I got to call somebody else, or I wait. So if I call a person that I want to photograph my movie, he says, oh man, I'm working on the film. I won't be done for another month. I'll let the producer know, listen, can we push this off for 1 month? It'll be worth it. And he has to figure out whether he can or he can't, right? Directors, the director directs the actors, chooses camera angles, oversees post-production. So right now I'm on post-production for this short, and I have to talk with the sound department. I have to talk with the editor. I got to make sure that they're doing what I need done for the movie, how I want it shot. I mean, how I want it edited, when I want the music to come in. That all goes with what? We said after you get picture lock, what do you go into? What type of session? What type of session do you have after you get picture lock?
Post-production.
Spot session.
Spot session, yes. So you go and spot the music, spot where all the sounds and the music go. All right, so production, that's on set, AKA principal photography. So once principal photography starts, that means production has started. Principal photography means this: when we're in pre-production, I'll take the cinematographer route, we'll do some test shooting. We're shooting, we're photographing things, but that's not principal photography, right? It's not. We're just doing some test shooting. But production is when you're on set, principal photography starts and you start shooting your movie. right? So on-set production, directing photography. So that's the camera person chooses the camera equipment, camera angle, has most pull on the technical crew on set. Okay, so when it says AKA principal photography, and we're talking about the director of photography or the DP or the cinematographer, right? He needs things a certain way. He'll talk with me as the director, and then he'll go and say, okay, I want the camera here, I want the lights here, I want all this stuff. And that's based off of the conversation the director and the cinematographer have. The director of photography will go out there to make sure everything as far as the way he wants to photograph the movie is satisfied. Y'all want to stop me at any point? You got questions, let me know. All right. So your production sound team. So I told you this all before. No matter how big or small a movie is, your sound crew is going to be about the same size. You're going to have your sound mixer, your boom operator, and your utility sound. 3 to 4 people. All right. For your entire movie. If one of them drops out, you get somebody to come day play. They're just replacing that person, and that's it. Okay. All right. First up, your sound mixer is the head of the production sound team. If they win sound, he wins the Academy Award. If there's a sound mix, like if they win for sound, like it was mixed well, or it was recorded well, the sound mixer, head of the production sound team. Production, not post-production. Production, all right? Interfaces with the director and the producer. Picks equipment, usually has their own gear. So if you hire somebody for your movie, a sound person, more than likely you would want them to have their own gear, all right? Runs a multi-track machine. So those bags, when y'all watched for discussions, and by the way, a discussion is gonna go up today. So you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You have 4 days to complete discussions, okay? He runs a multi-track machine. The person that had that sound bag and had all the stuff in that sound bag, he has a multi-track recorder in that bag, okay? And y'all might be thinking about faders like a big mixer board with faders. There's a more condensed version. It's the same, it's still a mixer, it's still a recorder, it still has knobs for levels, but it's just not really big and clunky. It's small enough to fit in the bag, all right? He's responsible for the overall quality of sound. So your sound mixer, and this has happened before with me on set with people. I started off in the sound department when I started off in film. So I'm very specific and critical, and basically, I just think sound is important. So I'm a stickler for sound. So if I hire somebody for sound and I hear something and the sound mixer doesn't say anything, I'm wondering why he didn't say something, because I used to be a sound mixer and I know at that point he should say something. Some people are new and they don't know any better. So that's why you have a talk with your sound person before you hire them. Or if you have to hire this person and this person doesn't have a lot of experience, you should do your research so that you both can make sure y'all stay on top of everything for your movie. Because I've had situations where we finished making a movie and it was time to edit, and it was a nightmare because sound wasn't recorded properly. Okay. Any questions? All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you were saying that the person on set that has the little bag and they're tweaking the sound or whatnot, at what point will it become wet? Because didn't you say wet and dry? Dry is when it's nothing on it, but wet is when it's been affected. At what point does it become affected, I guess?
Never. Not while you're shooting. So
Okay.
you don't put effects. What you're doing is you're recording a dry signal. So when you're in production, principal photography, when the mixer is recording sounds, he never puts effects on it. That's for later. That's for post-production. Okay? That's post-production.
Okay.
All right. So boom operator, $40 an hour. All right. Can anybody tell me why y'all see that number? Does anybody know what a regular day is on set as far as hours are concerned?
12 hours.
12.
12. Anybody want to add that up and let me know if that's right? What, based on what numbers y'all see in front of me, what hours, how many hours is he working?
12 hours and before 80.
No?
12.
If it's $40 an hour and he's going to get paid $364 a day, how many hours is he working?
10 hours? Like 10, 20.
A little less than that. A little less. It's closer to 9 hours.
Yeah, 9.1.
Yep. So 9 times 4 is 36. So it'll be $360. You add another $4 on there. But when you hire somebody for something, they tell you, hey man, I charge $40 an hour. And you got a 12-hour day, you go be like, yo man, it's 12 hours. We work 12 hours. If he knows he's going to get 12 hours in, maybe he gives you a deal. So it would really be $480 a day, right? But if you work for the union, that's not how it works. So right here, you getting 12, you work 40 hours or you get $40 an hour, and you work 12 hours, you getting 12 hours worth of pay. You're getting $480 a day. Okay. Right. So remember when I told you when you're on set for 12 hours, you probably work for 6. Right? Physical work you'll probably do for 6. The other 6 hours is downtime. Now, because remember, you only recording sounds when the director says action. But in between that, so when I say work, I said physical work, right? But if you work as a boom operator, utility sound, the sound mixers get more, utility gets a little less. You still doing work. Like you still might be rounding up cable when they ain't shooting, walking around doing stuff, but the actual holding the boom pole and being quiet, and that's what I consider the work part, right? The other thing, you just moving stuff around, walking around, set, being quiet, learning the environment, learning what needs to be done, all right? It's all work, to be honest with you. It's 12 hours of work, right? But 12 hours, like standing around opposed to sitting down and taking notes and watching people, because that's what I did. The 6 hours I wasn't actually holding a boom pole, I was sitting down taking notes on everything else I saw, all right? So holds the mic just out of picture frame. So you know, what is it called when you have, it says for a long time, when you holding your boom microphone and you drop it down, what are you looking to get from the crew, especially the camera person, as a sound person? It says just out of picture frame. So you want to get a boom line. All right. You want to make sure that your boom is not in the frame. So you drop it down to where they can see it, and then you bring it up until when it's right out of frame. That's so that you can get the best sound possible, but you're not in frame. If the camera is moving, you have to be mindful. You rehearse it sometimes. So where you'll do the camera movement with the boom operator, making sure the boom doesn't drop into frame. Okay. And it's middle management of the sound team. So as I said, you're not the utility person, but you're not the mixer. You're in the middle. All right. If we got the money, utility sound, same as boom. So sometimes I had to be a boom and utility at the same time. So I had to wrangle cable, I had to do boom, I had to do a couple of things at the same time. Holds an extra mic if needed, preps the next step for the sound team, dead end space, plants mic, runs cable, wires up talent with lives. So dead end space, that means that, let's just say we're in a location where they're recording sound and they hear reverb or echo. What I would have to do sometimes, I would have to get sound blankets and I would have to cover the windows or cover areas where sound might travel. cover a doorway, a space. If there wasn't a door, there was a door frame and it went into another room. We will put a sound blanket there, sound blanket around the windows to make sure that you got the most kind of like condensed area for sound. So even though I told you all, I said, y'all gonna get these PowerPoints, and I said, take notes. The reason why I said take notes, what I just said about sound blankets, that's not in the PowerPoint, but I'm mentioning it, so you should know it. So like I said, you're getting this PowerPoint, but please take notes, all right? Entry, and so a utility sound is your entry level production of sound. So if any of you happen to get into the union and you working in the sound department, you'll probably start off as utility sound, and then you work your way up to boom. And as you're working your way up, you're learning from the sound mixer what he's doing, the equipment to buy, all these things. And then when you're not working for the union and you got your own equipment, you could do sound on productions as well as your side hustle. Okay.
So when you are recording outside, for instance, and you have a sound blanket,
You said
what would you?
outside?
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Well, never mind. Take out the sound blanket for being outside. What do you do when you can't stop the wind, or like when, say, like for instance, what's that movie? It's some movie where they're recording outside and they're obviously in the snow, and it almost is like a blizzard. What do they do in those instances, like when you can't stop that sound?
Okay, so with microphones, and we looked at this, I don't know if you was in class that day, we had looked at the boom pole, and it had a blimp on it, and the blimp had a sound, a thing that you covered the sound, the blimp with. What do we call that, everybody?
Yeah, I don't recall that. Maybe I wasn't here.
Dead cat.
Dead cat.
A dead cat, yes. So Amber, there's a blimp that's on the top of your boom pole, and the microphone sits inside, and it sits inside a housing with rubber bands. It absorbs the sound, right? It absorbs movement. And you take this windscreen. It's basically a windscreen, but they call it a dead cat because it looks like a dead cat. And you cover this blimp, and it basically stops from collecting all that wind noise. Now, if it's really bad wind, that's not going to stop it. But if it's just like you outside and it's just wind blowing like regular wind, not too much, you're not going to hear it if you have the windscreen on. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So during production, your video editor syncs sound to picture of raw takes. So this is the thing. So we did talk about when you get to post-production, right? You're going to do sound design. But if y'all read this right here, your video editor syncs sound to picture of raw takes, right? Which means that when they send the dailies to the studios, they've already taken that sound that you recorded and synced the audio. They did it like they went home, or, you know, they're not on set sometimes. They get this information and they're doing this while we're in production. So there's a form of editing going on sometimes during production. Doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does, okay? So manually slate closed picture with sound slap. So that's when you have the slate and you hold it in front of the camera and you slate the camera and you slate, right? But a time code slate freezes the time counter when the slate hits. So when we watched the video, when you had that slate that had the digital code, that's what the TC slate is for, time code slate, okay? That freezes the time code counter when the slapper hits. It'll freeze for a second and then it'll continue, all right? And then you have your dailies. Your dailies is what you send back to the studio when you're shooting. So when we're on set shooting and we're shooting our movie, every day the dailies go to the studio or the department head or whoever is the dailies supposed to go to so that they can have the dailies. They watch them sometimes, see if there's an issue or a problem. A lot of times you don't want to wait until you finish making your whole movie to look at your dailies. Because if you had a problem and you didn't know you had a problem, that means that you got a whole movie with problems. But if you look at your dailies, that's why they call them dailies. You look at them every day. So you look at these dailies. You got a problem on Monday, we rectify it for us shooting on Tuesday. The movie is, let's say your movie takes 5 days and you're gonna wait until Friday to look at the whole movie. You had the problem on Monday. Now you got the same problem on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Finish your movie, you look, you be like, yo, we got this problem for the whole movie. That's a nightmare, okay? Dailies are, that's why they're called dailies. You look at them daily, okay? Here is your smart slate or your time code slate. Has your time code on it. We watched a whole video on time code, on how this thing works. We're gonna watch a video again on how you slate the camera, but remember, this is sound class. We're gonna, and the person that slates the camera is not the person from the sound department, it's the person from the camera department. It's your second AC, that's assistant camera. You got your first AC and your second AC, okay? Any questions? All right. Post-production, film has been shot, must be assembled. Your first picture, then sound, okay? You do your picture first, then you do your sound. Your video editor finds the best takes, puts them in order, trims to length. Story takes shape. Start completing a rough draft. You give sound to post, all right? OMF and AAF are really just extensions on what you, AAF is like wave. OMF is like AAF, right? So these are just all extensions on file extensions that you use when you're basically transferring these files, all right? So that completes that rough draft. Give sound, post, OMF and AFF, those are your files. Okay, your sound designer, a creative lead in the sound editorial. So your sound designer, make sure you have a good sound designer or somebody that really, like, this is their thing, right? So they have the script, hasn't seen the movie, begins gathering sound, right? So sound designer would not have seen the movie, so that when they see it, everything is new to them. It's just like a, you know, if anybody's ever bought a new car and they got that new car smell, that's a sound designer. Sound designer gets the movie and it's like something new for them. Something they know that they're gonna really impact by the way that they design the sound for the movie. So I know it gotta be exciting for them. Because even as a director, it's exciting for me when I know a sound designer is about to put sound on my movie. That's exciting. So I know it's exciting for them, right? So they have the script, they haven't seen the picture, begins gathering sound. So remember, Lena, when you talked about Foley, and I
Yes, sir.
said wild sound,
Yes, sir.
that field recording. So that's what that is. What we recorded in the field. So field recordings. So we say, hey, let's do the footsteps. We do wild sound in the footsteps. That becomes a part of the field recordings. If we did wild
So
line,
wild sound is field recordings in
right.
post-production.
Wild, you said, say that again?
Wild, if you're recording wild sounds, that become field sound in post-production.
It will be field recording for post-production.
Field recording. Yeah, okay, got it.
Right. So, and then it has libraries. So that sound library I gave you, they're looking through the sound library. So they'll get the field recordings. They'll get everything. And they'll have notes on what we recorded in the field. Then they'll have a sound library. And they're looking through the sound library. Okay. So supervising sound editor oversees the budget and creative for sound, creative for sound department. Get to know them. Hire sound editorial crew. So you'll have people involved, right? So that's why it says meanwhile. This is all kind of happening at the same time. So, so you can't see it, but right here, this right here says spotting session. It's hard to see. So sound sees picture, spotting session, all right? So director, video editor, composer, supervisor of sound designer, watch the film. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people sit in a room and they watch the movie. They're watching the movie. So sound sees picture for the first time, gets the director's idea on what and where the sound and the music should be. So they're sitting there talking about this goes here, this goes here, this goes, that's what they're doing, okay? So then you have sound only spotting. Hold on. Sound only spotting. SSC and SD, that sound design, get together, all right? So the sound designer and the sound editor, get together, right? Get together with other sound crew. Watch, get general ideas, not frame accurate yet. So the sound editor puts across director's vision and shares with their own ideas. All right, so that's a sound supervising editor. All right, or supervising sound editor, whichever one you want. Puts across director's vision and shares their own ideas. Sound effects Foley gets a list of sound effects. Divide into field recording, Foley, in the library. So you see that, everybody? Divide into the field recording, the Foley, and the library. Okay, so you got your sound effects and your Foley. It's the list of sound effects. Divide into field recording, Foley, and library. Those are all sound effects. So that's why I said Foley artists create sound effects. The field recordings are considered sound effects. The Foley artists, sound effects. Everything is sound effects, okay? Even though we say sound effects in Foley for the 5 elements, because Foley is different from the library, all right? This is why I said it's one of them things where it is, but it ain't. It's the same thing, but it's not. Foley artists create sound effects, but there are sound effects in the library. But everybody understands, right? Is it confusing?
Understand the concept of you saying that everything is still sound effects?
Yep.
Yeah, I understand it, because you got to think about it in real life. We don't walk around with music playing. We don't walk around like with our footsteps really that pronounced. Like, yes, I get it.
Okay. Everybody else clear?
Clear.
Okay, it's
Yep.
gonna
Yes.
yes, good. It's gonna be one of the foundations when you come out of this class. So when you say, "Oh, I had 220 FLM 220," and what you've learned, it's significant to know sound effects and Foley in the libraries. You got a library, you can make your movie sound really good. All right. Some people, there are some directors use the same sound designer. And as I said, David Fincher, if you watch a David Fincher movie and he's either outside or they're in a restaurant and you're supposed to be hearing outside, it's the same sound. Right? Same sound. All right. Spotting dialogue. Can location sound be used? He said, hope so. So where is location sound usable? Where do alternate takes need to be found? Unusable, need ADR. So basically, where if you're on location, as we talked about with Despite, the movie Despite, the one we did at the school, the one where none of the sound we used, we had them come, the actors come in and do ADR on the entire movie. All right. If anybody knows Lamar Miller, he is the chair for the sound department upstairs. He did ADR for the entire movie. He did the sound design for the entire movie. So we had ADR sessions with the actors. Me and him did. He did sound design for the movie to make that movie feel like when we watched it, it felt like a restaurant. It felt like we recorded sound while we were filming. We couldn't use it, so we had to put sound in for the entire movie. All right. So where do alternate takes need to be found? So we can find alternate takes in the clips, but nothing was usable, right? So unusable, we need ADR. Okay. So spotting, says last slide, promise. So create divided notes into frame accurate lists for effects. So you have ambience, background, Foley effects, and all that stuff that needs to be recorded. Sometimes you got to go back and you got to get people to come in and you got to have to record stuff. Sometimes it's not even ADR. It's not to replace anything. You might be added sound. You might have something that's off camera or not in frame or off screen. It needs to be recorded. They come in and they'll go on the mic. And now the convenient thing is, you can have a person do that at home, right? So if anybody got into either voiceover work or stuff, a lot of people that work in voiceovers, they work from home. And they got equipment at home. They got a computer, a microphone, and they do voiceover work. Voiceover work is very profitable. If you have a distinguished voice or a distinguishing voice, you probably can get voiceover work. And like I said, a lot of that's done from home. And due to the circumstances with COVID, that's a job you can have at home.
I would really like to get your opinion or even your direction on how to actually pursue that.
Okay, I'll help you out. Okay, so this is the last slide. Oh no, there's one more. Okay, it says last slide continue. Dialogue, ADR lines by actor, literal scripts include pauses, breaths, stutters, etc. So basically, what they're saying is when you come in for an ADR section, right, and the actor gives their lines. Remember, in the moment when they're acting, because I had this basically done with Despite. My wife was actually, because she's the woman in Despite, and she's going through her lines. When she's acting, she's breathing and emotional, you can feel it. When you do an ADR session, she has to do the same thing. But when she's doing an ADR session, she wasn't sitting down, she was standing up. In the movie, she's sitting down. You get a different vibe sometimes, different energy, right? And it's actually, you can see it and you can feel it. So at times with ADR sessions, you got to put the breath in there, you got to put the pauses. Everything needs to kind of feel the same, okay? Everything. All right. ADR, now we are in post. ADR is next. Automated dialogue recording or automatic dialogue replacement, okay? Same thing. All right, Foley. Sounds that relate directly to on-screen action that would be difficult to pull from a library. So, as we keep talking about Foley, there's so many different definitions for what Foley is, all right? But as I said, it has to do with humans and body movement and all that stuff. So this one says sounds that relate directly to on-screen action that will be difficult to pull from a library. So you got a sound library. That sound library you all have. You might not find the sound you're looking for. Even with over 5,000 sounds, you might not find it. That means that you need somebody, a Foley artist, to pull it off. Don't think, oh, it's just footsteps, it's not needed. If I'm watching a movie, somebody walking down the street and I can't hear them, they better have on like rubber shoes or like shoes with soft sole. And I better be able to see the soft sole. Because if I see a woman walking in heels and I don't see them, I don't hear them. Remember what we talked about taking us out of the movie, breaking that fourth wall. Something as simple as that can break your fourth wall. I could hear her talking. She got heels on, but I don't hear the heels. Nah, man, this ain't right. Now, I'm sure we've all seen it. And being that, I'm teaching, you all may get to how I am, right? Some people just are very specific and they notice things. And it's your job, remember, you're a magician. It's your job to fool everybody. Fool your audience to believe in, oh, she's walking in heels and she's talking and it sounds clear. You already know we're on set and we're recording of somebody walking with heels on. They're going to be doing what to their lines? What is it called?
Stepping on the lines.
Very good. Stepping on lines. So anytime you want dialogue, that's why you're recording a dry signal and that's all you want. That's why you unplug the refrigerator, unplug appliances. If there's a hum in the lights, you replace the lights because all you want is the dialogue. Somebody's walking, you got to put rubber like absorbents under their heels so when they walk, you don't hear it, and then you put the heels in after. All right. So footsteps, clothing rustling, some crashes and body falls, all that stuff you want to put in later. Usually related to action of humans or other living things. Okay, so there's a show. I don't know if anybody knows the show. It was called The Benny Hill Show. Does anybody know what The Benny Hill Show is?
Yes, I do.
That's one. Shamari, are you there?
Of course.
You know what The Benny Hill Show is? Who said of course?
Debo.
Okay, so you know what The Benny Hill Show is, Debo's?
Yes.
Okay, so that's two. The Benny Hill Show was a show that came out a long time ago, and it was a guy from overseas, from England, from the UK. And he's a funny guy, right? But he had a skit he did. So y'all just think about Dave Chappelle Show. That's what the Benny Hill Show was back in the days, okay? Comedy show. And he had a skit where these guys had on leather suits and they sat on a leather couch. And you can hear the leather couch while they're talking. It's hilarious, but that's similar to clothes rustling or whatever the case may be. If you have a scene for your film and you got a guy in a leather suit and he sits on a leather couch, he better not move because you won't be able to hear anything. And that was kind of the point of the skit. All right. But so if anybody, I'll see if I could pull it up on YouTube to show it to y'all. But usually related to actions of humans, remember, related to actions of humans. So this is a way that you can define Foley, related to actions of humans or other living things. All right, sound effects, broad strokes first, meaning when you throw sound effects in your movie, take it easy. You know, don't throw a whole lot of stuff in there to clutter up your movie with sound. Broad strokes, take your time. Background ambience creates general mood and fills the continuity gaps, right? So major effects, obvious effects, not tiny details, okay? So if production runs out of budget time, you still have coverage, right? So if production runs out of budget time, right, you still have coverage, which means that you still have an opportunity to actually implement sound effects for your movie. Okay? Everybody good? Okay.
Yep. So far. Right after the class, will we be able to listen to the or watch the portion that you did actually record?
Watch you mean this recorded session?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put it up.
All right, thank you.
All right, sound effects part 2, you add details, takes project from sufficient to great. All right. So if you add the right sound effects, I want y'all to think about Star Wars or Avengers or any movie. If they took all the sound effects out, the movie it wouldn't be what it is. How you feel it, how great, like they say, great. Building effects, movie effects are bigger than life. Think like a composer. Low frequency creates size. So low frequency sounds like the boom, the 808 or a loud a crash with low frequency creates size. Mids, presence of sounds. Highs are jarring and disturbing. Okay. That's good information. All the information on here has been pretty good. That's really good. All right. Building effects, gunshots. Broad strokes, place gunshots. Detail, add several other shots to create big sounds. Ricochets, piercing tone, shell hitting the ground. If y'all think about the Matrix, when that agent is shooting at Neo, you can actually hear the shells hitting the ground. That's good sound design. Usually when you hear a gun firing, you just hear the gun firing without the shell hitting the ground. That means that's inaccurate. If you see a person shooting, especially an automatic weapon, like a 9 or a Glock, opposed to a revolver, a revolver, the shell stays inside. With automatic, like a 9mm or a Glock, the shell hits the ground. All stuff a sound designer should know. Bullets, impact the wall, debris or ricochets, impact the body, squish sound, percussive sound, a grunt, all right, etc. So what they just saying is the details, attention to details, all right? Just remember, sound design, you got a sound designer that's supposed to pay attention to all of that, right? Temp Dub, after a month and a half on a Hollywood feature, mixed the film for director's approval. Mixed processing is called recording, a re-recording, all right? So, because you recorded everything, now you're re-recording because you're putting everything together, all right? So you're basically mixing the sound, you're mixing it so that it's balanced. Everybody understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Back to work. More detailed departments. Music goes from themes or more. Well, we'll get back to this when we come back from break. So let's go on break. We're gonna come back at 1 o'clock. I'm going through all this stuff so that next week when y'all take your midterm and y'all have the weekend to look over these PDFs or these PowerPoints so that you can pass your midterm. All right.
Comprende.
All right. All right. So I'll see you all at 1 o'clock.
All right.
All right. All right, y'all, we back. Everybody sign in. All right, so when class is over, I will post this PDF, both PDFs, and this recording. It'll be in announcements. And it's going to take a little while because this recording, whenever the recordings, when I stop the Zoom session, it takes a while for the recordings to actually generate. So it won't be like right after, you know what I'm saying? But it will be sometime today where everything will be up in announcements. It'll should be subject heading, should be midterm review material. And I have the PDFs and the recording. All right. So we'll finish up the PowerPoint and finish up class. Any questions before I finish up PowerPoint? Everybody's good?
Yeah, I'm good.
How
All
many
right.
questions?
All right. Okay, make sure everybody signs into the chat. Okay, so back to work, more detailed departments. So this is all about the post-production process when it comes to sound. So more detailed departments. So music goes from themes to more specific pieces, beginning with recording, music goes from themes to more specific pieces, begin recording orchestra. So you begin the score with your orchestra, right? So as we seen from the earlier PowerPoint, you got your orchestra. Depending on how many instruments that you have, you get them all together, and you're recording these scores, and you're seeing how they work and how they feel. And it's almost like if anybody, well, you all should know about chemistry. So chemistry. So if you're with somebody or was with somebody, you had a partner, and y'all might have had chemistry, right? Y'all work well together. Y'all deal with each other well. Y'all had chemistry. Even in movies, when I'm directing a scene, usually when we audition or we have a scene where I want to see how these actors work together, and if they are like gelling and they have chemistry, it's an amazing thing because that's kind of like half the work. For me as a director, if I'm directing a scene or I got actors that never met each other, never worked before, they're in the scene and they working well, and I'm just like, oh, they have chemistry. That's good for the scene, because as a viewer, when you're watching it, you're like, does it feel right? It does feel right. That's chemistry. It's the same thing when you're putting music over a movie. It has to be some chemistry there. It has to fit. It has to work. If you put the wrong score over it, your audience can feel it. Your audience will be like, and it won't be an automatic feeling, especially if you're not a filmmaker. If you're just a viewer, you're taking it as it comes. And later on, you'll be like, that scene was kind of okay. It didn't feel right. It might be the score. It could be the music for the scene, not the actors. All right. So you got to be real careful when you pick music. Okay. So re-recording part 2. So pre-mixes to stems, sub-mixes to get track count slower. So what that means is when you're in Pro Tools and you pull all these sounds and Foley and the sound effects and the music and the background, all dialogue, all this stuff, you can start to generate like 50, 60 tracks, like a lot of tracks. But what happens is pre-mixes to stems, like sub-mixes to get track count lower. So you can make 60 tracks 30. You start to combine. And that means that like on one track, maybe I got all of the guns and the car sounds, right? On one track. And what I'll do is I'll have the gun sound in one way. When I get to the cars, I'll mix them a certain way. And maybe I'll actually put the mixes on it opposed to it being like outboard, right? And it'll be a part of the file. And you can do a lot of things in Pro Tools and even in Premiere where you're mixing, where you're consolidating, right? Because you might not have, let's just say in Pro Tools, I want to say it's unlimited, but you get a good amount of tracks. But just with mixing, you got to be careful, all right? So mix on a large board big enough for 3 people, mixer for each stem, dialogue, music, and effects. So you just got multiple people working with you. It doesn't have to be just one person. Delivery, film delivery, optical negative, television, laid back to video or sound file with 2-pop. Okay, so all this means is depending on where this is going, okay, depending on where you're sending this will depend on what your deliverable is supposed to be. So I'll give you an example. Hey, Barbara, make sure you sign into the chat so I know that you're here, okay? It's important that you know what your deliverables are. I had a friend that worked on the movie Public Enemies with Johnny Depp. He was the behind the scenes videographer. So he had to capture all the behind the scenes stuff. So me and him was working on this movie, but at the same time we was working on the movie, he had to deliver all his behind the scenes stuff for the movie. And I was like, so, and I asked him, he's like, I got to deliver this. I got to hurry up and deliver this because I think it was Paramount is asking for this stuff. And he explained to me that with his deliverables, they had to deliver everything for this movie at one time. So that means the theatrical version, the Blu-ray version, the DVD version, the video on demand version, the television version, everything had to be submitted at one time. So you have to know your deliverables. And with those 5 different deliverable, I guess, platforms, right? Each one of those has different specs. So the television one will have it where you got all the curses bleeped out. You got it cut to commercial breaks. You got the sound in a certain way. You got the picture looking a certain way. Now that's just the television version. Now you got the theatrical version. The theatrical version has to be 5.1 surround sound. Excuse me. They have to submit multiple versions of a theatrical version because in the theater, even if it's digital, you got IMAX, you got certain theaters that have certain deliverables. Like if you go to a neighborhood theater, it's going to be different. Like if you go to like an AMC theater, but those are still theatrical versions. Then you got your video on demand or your cable version. Those are different deliverables. This is why when you hear a person, you might hear me say, you can't do this by yourself. You literally can't do this by yourself. Okay, you just can't. That's just how it is. All right. So we talked about the 2-pop. Well, I don't want to just get into this so much, but it's actually 1 frame long, 1K tone. Also makes a 2-pop marker. Never make it something different. Your 2-pop is your 2-pop. Don't make it something different. Don't think, oh, I'm gonna do my 2-pop different. Don't do it. That 1K tone is very important. It's not only seen, it's heard. There are certain machines that recognize it. If you put something else in there, it's not going to recognize it. Okay. I can almost guarantee that's going to be on your midterm. Don't change that 1K tone. All right. So, but why? Simply leaders. So remember, Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineer Leaders. It says put here. So your tone has to go in a specific place. All right. Here we talked about it. All right. It's 1 frame long. All right. And it goes, is usually located at 595800. Okay. So here, splice. Okay. That means that's a specific place. So provides a universal means to sync picture with audio. 10 seconds long. Get 1 start now time. Get our start now time. Like I said, the way this thing is, whoever did this. Okay, 10 seconds long. Countdown from 8 to 3, each 1 second long. 2 is 1 frame long. Hence, 1 frame, 1 kilohertz tone, 2 seconds before FFOAs. Well, that's before your frame start. That's all that means, okay? All right, so throw down the start marker at 1 hour, AKA first frame of action, your frame start. Hold on, everybody. Okay. So AKA first frame of action, that's what FFOA stands for, your first frame, your start, okay? Throw down a start marker at 1 hour, AKA first frame of action, FFOA. Now spot, throw down markers for all edits or cuts. Helps you become intimate with the material. Gives you a roadmap, helps with interaction with clients. So you got a client and you're basically marking everything, where everything goes, your cuts, your edits, your spots, everything where it's marked. It's gonna look cluttered, it's gonna look crazy, but that's a good thing because that means you did a lot of work. All right. So you're spotting. When you're spotting, you're spotting. You're spotting sounds, you're spotting music, spotting sound effects, spotting dialogue, you're spotting voiceover, spotting. All right. And the markers are basically cues of where they go. All right. So more spotting. Now spot major sound effects, not footsteps and stuff, major stuff. Okay. So then you control drag from the region bin and you're done. And that's it. All right. So go back to here, major sound effects. So not spot, now spot major sound effects. So major sound effects. So like with Star Wars would be your lightsaber, or when your spaceship kind of takes off, or the Millennium Falcon when it flies, R2D2 his sounds, like those are major sound effects, but those are kind of like the soundscape of the movie. But it says not footsteps and stuff. So like footsteps or stuff that is like natural stuff, you can do that later, right? You can kind of do that last. You want to get the major stuff done. But don't forget, don't go through a whole sound design session and forget to put the footsteps in. Like you've been working for a month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever, how long, you got it done and you forget the footsteps. Now to make sure you have a sheet, you're writing down everything that you need to do. Have like a spot session, or your spot session or your cue sheet is going to have everything. When you in your spot session and you're cueing, you're going to cue to where the footsteps go in. Just make sure you fulfill everything or you satisfy everything that's on your cue sheet. This way you will have not forgotten anything, right? So it's important that you don't forget anything, all right? So the major stuff. All right, so we are done with your midterm review. So if you know these PowerPoints, you watch this recording, you took notes the whole first half of the semester, you should be fine with your midterm. All right. Your midterm is going to be about 25 questions, somewhere around there.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Okay. I would say 25 to 50. I think your final is probably going to be like 50 questions. Your midterm is probably going to be like 25 questions.
Is it going to be timed?
Yeah.
No, it's going to be the same way all your classes are. I don't know what the other teachers are doing. You're not going to be timed on it.
And you usually put like a little timer on it, a little ticker.
Like some teachers are giving y'all a time limit?
Yeah, so I'm gonna put like a little 30-minute ticker on it or something.
Okay. All right. So any questions from anybody? We're not done with class yet, but any questions? With your assignments? All right. So I'm just gonna go to assignments right now. And so remember, as I said, The discussion is going to be up today, so you'll have today, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to complete it. I know people are going to be watching the Super Bowl, but I don't care. Make sure that you submit your work by 5 because the Super Bowl ain't going to start till like 7 o'clock. Okay, so
I could give a left-handed rat's toenail about the Super Bowl.
Okay, so I guess Cedric had to put his I guess 2
A
cents.
left-handed right toenail, is that what he said?
Left-handed rat's toenail. I don't care.
I couldn't even
I
follow.
feel you, Cedric.
I couldn't even
really don't
follow
care.
the body parts and stuff that he was talking about. So, you know,
I'm intentionally not gonna watch it.
Okay, well,
We'll find something else to do.
All right.
You know the NFL is going to hell in a handbag when the Browns beat the Steelers. Okay.
Okay. So Shamari put left-handed rat's toenail. I'm dead. Okay. So So everybody, understand. Like I said, y'all learning about sound. When y'all leave here, when y'all graduate, please, please, please pay attention to sound. Right? I know y'all are in class, and I know how it is being a student. When you're done with the class, sometimes it's like, whoo, I'm done. I don't want to think about that no more. This is not that class. All right, this is the class. I really want y'all to pay attention to sound because you hear me. Y'all listening to my voice?
Yes.
All right. Y'all get in your car and turn music on. That sound. Y'all watch a movie. Y'all listening to your movie, listening to the dialogue, listening to. You all have the blueprint in front of you all the time because all the media that y'all take in, it's already been mastered. All right. It's already gone through the process that we're talking about. So you're listening to the final results all the time. All right. It's in your ear all the time. Mastered music, mastered TV shows, mastered films, mastered podcasts, radio shows, all these things are mastered. Y'all are listening to what y'all need to do all the time. So you turn on your TV, that's your goal right there. You're listening, so you close your eyes. So I gave you all the experiment or the example, right? And I'll tell you all again. Watch a movie, mute it, watch it. You'll see things you didn't see before. Turn a movie on, turn your back to it, and just listen to it. You'll hear things that you didn't hear before. Because what you're doing is you're isolating your senses, right? Isolating your eyes where you just see something, or isolate your ears where you just hear it. You'll hear more and you'll see more, right? As a filmmaker, this is your job. 3 to 4 films a week. Really listen, really look, really watch, okay? When you leave this class, when you leave SAE, I want you just as much on sound as you are on picture and editing, okay? Everybody, yeah.
Listen closely now, but if something's either missing or it just doesn't sound right, it doesn't fit sometime, and you just can't put your finger on it.
Yeah. So what are you saying, Cedric? Like
I don't have special equipment or anything like that, but I can tell if a sound is natural or it's been enhanced most of the time.
Okay. When you say enhanced, you mean processed, right?
Yeah.
So You don't really need special equipment. I mean, if you're talking about having a TV and having a home theater, yeah, they're going to sound different, but they're still both mastered, right? They're still
True.
balanced, right? So when you're listening, like I said, to a TV or a theater, you're in a theater or you have kind of like a theater setting at home, right? Um, you know, you still have what you need to be able to know what it should sound like. So I had a friend that used to mix music in New York, and how he used to mix music, he used to use computer speakers. And people would be like, yo, why don't you use like the monitors in the studio? He said, yeah, I do that last. I usually use a computer first. Because if I get it where it sounds decent in computer speakers, I know it's going to sound good in regular studio speakers. And he's right. So if sometimes if you mix something or you go based off of like a speaker from your laptop or a computer, it's not going to sound like stereo, like a theater system is not. But it's still, you got to balance your bass and your treble and your mids. So if you can balance that on a computer speaker, then you turn it on to the studio monitors, it should be balanced as well. All right. So sometimes people say, oh, well, I don't have the right equipment. Sometimes you don't need the expensive equipment to get it done. You don't. Right.
Sometimes you just know what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, but it's gonna sound, so put it this way. When you record something in the studio, when you mix it in the studio, it's going to have the opportunity to be on somebody's computer or in their headphones or on their TV. And that means that your mix in the studio has to be well balanced so that wherever it goes, it's going to sound good. So you got to do experiments. Like when you mix something, after you mix it, just don't listen to it in the studio. Make a file of it and put it in your car. Make a file of it, put it on your phone and listen to it on your phone, and then listen to it with headphones on. So you need to audition your mixes multiple places. That's the same thing when you're doing color correction on a movie. You color correct it on your computer, you don't have a calibrated monitor. So now you need to go to different platforms to see how the way you color corrected your movie on your computer, how does it look on my TV? How does it look on my phone? You know what I'm saying? So always just don't be satisfied with one mix, whether it's a video mix, audio mix. Experiment and audition it on different pieces of equipment. All right. All right. Any questions?
So is that what they do with film as well?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Now, the major ones, like, put it this way, if you have enough experience and you've done it enough, you don't got to send it to multiple places. You already know, right? And then these people that have been doing this for like decades, they got machines and presets, and it's going to go through multiple channels before it's published, before it goes out to the world. So they already know, because when we talked about illegal and legal, video and audio has illegal and legal parameters, right? So if it's too black, if it's overexposed, if it's too loud, if it's not audible, all these things can become illegal. So you know what you have if you have your experience. You learn as you continue to do it. But yes, most people go through multiple channels and exhibit it in multiple places before they let it out to the world to make sure it's right. Yeah. You know, a lot of people put stuff on YouTube and they just put it up. Sometimes it don't look good. Sometimes it don't sound good. That's because they don't know better. And then there's no trial. There's no trial. Like, you go through a process. You all are learning the process so that when you put something out, it's good. All right. Right. So we're about to end class. As I said, I'm going to put everything up for everybody. I hope that you all signed into the chat so y'all could be marked present today. Right. So David and Amber, I'm going to call you all. I'm going to give both of you a call. All right.
Hey.
All right. All right. So everybody take care, and I will see you all next week.
All right, Robinson.
All right. Take care.
Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you. All right.